Hello classmates, good afternoon, especially to our instructor, Dr. Meldrito B. Valles. For this afternoon, I will be discussing the topic in Module 5, which entitled Viewing Reading as Development. I am Crisilan B. Amistoso, your reporter for this topic. To begin with, let me start with a quotation. Reading is a complex interaction between the text, the reader, and the purpose for reading, which are shaped by the reader's prior knowledge and experiences, the reader's knowledge about reading and writing language, and the reader's language community, which is culturally and socially situated, by Dr. Janet M. Hughes. To begin with, I'm going to discuss Charles' proposal for reading stages. But before that, let us know who is Jean Charles. She is a famous reading specialist, a Harvard Graduate School of Education, psychologist, writer, and literacy researcher for over 50 years. Believe in the importance of direct, systematic instruction in reading in spite of other reading trends throughout her career. Born in Poland on January 1, 1921, to Jewish parents, her family immigrated to New York City when she was 7. Charles' native language was Yiddish. She died at 78 in Cambridge, Massachusetts on November 27, 1999. Charles' major contribution. First, she founded the Harvard Reading Laboratory in 1967, directing it until she retired in 1991. She served on the board of directors of the International Reading Association from 1961 to 1964 and on the National Academy of Education's Commission on Reading that resulted in the report Becoming a Nation of Readers in 1985. Stages of Reading Development was established in 1983. In 1996, Chal and 3 graduate students wrote a guide to evaluating the level of text reading difficulty, Qualitative Assessment of Text Difficulty, a practical guide for teachers and writers. Before we go to the proposal of Jean Chal, there are aspects to remember before reading the proposal of Jean Chal. First, number 1, Column 3 gives an overview of the major qualitative characteristics as an individual moves from stage to stage. Note that these changes occur in 2 major aspects of reading. A. The medium. When we see the medium, we are talking about alphabet writing that corresponds to the sound of words. Letter B. The message. In message, it is composed the story, the poem, and the recipe. That is read. In column 4, presents an overview of how reading is acquired. It makes clear the importance of teacher, an adult or older siblings or classmates. It also recognizes the importance of reading materials and tasks. Number 3, column 5 presents the relationship between listening and reading. Now, let us come to the assumptions underlying Charles' stages of reading development. Number 1, individual people progress through the reading stages at different rates. The rate of advancement depends upon interaction between individual. When we are talking individual, it's about biological, motivational, cognitive, and environment. It talks about home, school, community. So these are the factors in how individual people progress. Number two, the age and grade specifications for the different stages also vary from culture and group to group. Number three, the characteristics and descriptions given for different stages serve primarily as models, not as prescription nor standards. They are presented to convey how reading develops and changes. Number four, there are many ways to bring about the same results in reading. For instance, there are many procedures for teaching beginning reading, from letters and sounds to words, to stories, or from simple stories to letters and sounds, with primers and readers, or simple stories to letters and sounds, with primers and readers, or simply from Sesame Street and Batibot. Yet, all are designed to accomplish the major beginning reading task, which is decoding. Number five, a person's progress through the stages is not a straight upward path. At any reading stage, the level of individual's performance also depends on the difficulty of the task and the extent of instruction received. If the task is new and no additional instruction is received, the reader may temporarily drop to a lower level functioning already abandoned. For example, a child who has learned to decode familiar text will start guessing when material is too difficult. So this is requires in stage 3 of reading. The text may contain too many words that need to be decoded, too many unknown meanings. With time and with reading will be smooth again. Number 6, do not look at the stages as static and fixed. A person may function at differing levels at any one time. For instance, when reading becomes more varied in terms of content, so a reader may be at stage 4 in one area of knowledge and at stage 3 in another. Number 7, the stage do not mean that all children of a given grade or age are to be at the same reading level. No, not do they mean that they are to be instructed at the same level. Rather, the stages are proposed as means for teaching each person at his or her level of development. Number 8, reaching the most mature stages of reading is of value to both the individual and society. Now, let us come to the stages of reading development. So, as you can see in this table, this child stages of reading development, we have here 5 columns. For first column, it indicate the stage. Second column, approximate age and grade. For column 3, characteristics and masteries by end of a stage. For column 4, how acquired. And for column 5, relationship of reading to listening. Now, let us come to first stage. Stage 0, pre-reading. So, approximate age and grade. So, for age, it starts with 6 months to 6 years. For grade level, it is preschool. For characteristics and masteries by end of stage, child pretends to read, retells a story when looking at the pages of book, previously read to him or her, names letters of alphabet, recognizes some signs, friend's own name, plays with books, pencils, and paper. So that is the characteristics of preschool. For a preschool, how acquired? Being read being read to by an adult or older child who responds To any warmly appreciates the child's interest in books and reading, being provided with books, papers, pencils, blocks, and letters, dialogue, and reading. So this is how the preschool acquire the language. For the relationship of reading to listening, most can understand the children's pictures, books, and stories read to them. So they can already understand based from the pictures. They understand thousands of words they hear by age 6, but can read few any of them. So they can understand the pictures. They can understand uh, they can understand thousands of words, but they can only read few words. Okay. For stage 1, this is initial reading and decoding. So for approximate age, the age is 6 to 7 years old. And for the grade, first grade and beginning grade. So how the stage 1, the characteristics and masteries by the end of stage. So child learns relation between letters and sounds and between printed and spoken words. Child is able to read simple text containing high frequency words and phonically regular words, uses skill and insights to sound out new one syllable words. So how this stage 1, how he or she acquired direct instruction in letter sound relations like phonics and practice in their use, reading of simple stories using words of high frequency, being read to on a level above what a child can independently to develop more advanced language patterns, vocabulary, and concepts. So how this is how the initial reading and decoding for first grade and beginning second, how these learners acquire the language. For the relationship of reading to listening, so the level of difficulty of language read by the child is much below the language understood when heard. At the end of stage 1, most children can understand up to 4,000 or more words when heard, but can read about 600. So you can see the difference between the stage 0 and stage 2. Now, let's stage 1. Now let us come to stage 2. Stage 2 is the confirmation and fluency. For approximately age, it is between 7 to 8 years old. And for grade level, second and third grade. So what are the characteristics? First, child reads simple, familiar stories and selections with increasing fluency. Next, this is done by consolidating the basic decoding elements, sight vocabulary, and meaning context in the reading of familiar stories and selection. So how these learners acquired? Direct instruction in advanced decoding skills, wide reading, like instruction and independent levels. So, of familiar interesting materials that help promote fluent reading. Being read to at levels above their own independent reading level to develop language, vocabulary, and concept. So what are the relationships of reading to listening? So at the end of stage 2, about 3,000 words can be read and understood, and about 9,000 are known when heard. Listening is still more effective than reading. So, as you can see, there is a big difference from stage 0, stage 1, and stage 2. So, how these learners acquire the language. Next, for stage 3, reading for learning new. Approximate age, we have 9 to 13 years old. For grade level, we have 4th and 8th grade. So, we have here phase 1 and phase B. For phase A, we have intermediate 4th to 6th. And for phase B, we have here junior high school 7 to grade 9. So how do you, what are the characteristics and masteries by the end of stage? So first, reading is used to learn new ideas, to gain new knowledge, to experience new feelings, to learn new attitudes generally from viewpoint. So how they're acquired? Reading and study of textbooks. Next, reference works, trade books, newspapers, and magazines that contain new ideas and values, and familiar vocabulary and syntax. Systematic study of words and reacting to the text through discussion. Another is answering questions, writing, or reading of increasingly more complex text. So this is the way how the learners acquired the language. Now let us come to the relationship of reading to listening. So for at first, at the beginning of stage 3, listening comprehension of the same material is there more effective than reading comprehension. By the end of stage 3, reading and listening are about equal for those who read very well. Reading may be more efficient. So these are the relationship of reading to listening in stage 3. Now, let us come to stage 4. Multiple viewpoints. So, approximate age, we have here 15 to 17 years old. For grade level, we have here grade 10 and 12. For the characteristics and masteries by the end of stage, reading widely from a broad range of complex materials, both expository and narrative with the variety of viewpoints. So these are the characteristics of these learners. For how acquired, wide reading and study of physical, biological, and social sciences and the humanities, high quality and popular literature, newspapers and magazines, systematic study of words and words apart. So this is the way how the learners acquired the language. Now, let us come to the relationship of reading to listening. Reading comprehension is better than listening. So, as you can see, from stage 0, 1, 2, and 3, they are more on listening comprehension. They are more on listening. While in stage 4, reading comprehension is better than listening comprehension of materials of difficult content and readability. For poor reader, for poor readers, listening comprehension may be equal to reading comprehension. And for stage 5, so we have here the confirmation and fluency. For approximately age, we have here 18 plus years old. And for the grade level, so we have here college and beyond. For the characteristic of stage 5, of course, reading is used for one's own needs and purposes, like professional and personal. Reading serves to integrate one's knowledge with that of others, to synthesize it, and to create new knowledge. It is rapid and efficient. So how these learners acquired in this stage? How they acquire knowledge? How they acquire the language? First, wide reading of ever more difficult materials, reading beyond one's immediate needs, writing of papers, tests, essay, and other forms that call for integration and varied knowledge and viewpoints. So what is the relationship of reading to listening? In stage 5, reading is more efficient than listening. So as you can see, from stage 4 and 5, you will notice that the learners are more on reading comprehension than listening comprehension. Now, let us come to the summary of major characteristics of stages of reading development. As you can see, in stage 0, we call it pre-reading, birth to age 6, to stage 1, initial reading or decoding stage, from grade 1 to 2, ages 6 to 7. For stage 2, confirmation, fluency, and glowing from print. So, we have here grades 1 to 2, ages 7 to 8. For stage 3, we have here reading for learning new. We have here first step, grades 4 to 8, ages 9 to 13. For stage 4, multiple viewpoints, we have here high school, ages 14 to 18. And for the last stage, we have here construction and reconstruction, a world view, college, age 18 and above. So this is the summary of the stages of reading development. Now, let us come to from media to message. So, from media to message, medium, when we say medium, meaning we are talking about print. When we say message, meaning we are talking about content or meaning. When the readers enter stage 3, they start using to learn the new. Meaning to say, when we say learn to new, we are talking about new knowledge, information, thoughts, and experiences. Since their background, knowledge, vocabulary, and cognitive abilities are still limited at this stage, reading materials are clear, less complex, and within one viewpoint. Now, how and where learning takes place. In column 4, in the table of stages of reading development, it underscored the importance of a teacher, an adult or older siblings or classmates, as well as the reading materials and tasks in reading development. The home, the school, and the community have important contribution to reading. So because they are the one to help or support the learners. Early literacy begins when children encounter books and other written texts in their own social and cultural environment. Within this natural environment of language use, young children learn what books and written texts are, when and where they are used. This early awareness and purpose of written language and environment of their homes and communities is called emergent literacies by Papas et al. 1990. A study among Filipino preschoolers by Pado 1990 showed that children from homes with a print-rich environment, presence of reading materials, presence of adults who read and write, adults who interact and read to children, where children are encouraged to read and write, develop many literacy behaviors such as book orientation, book handling, and early reading and writing. These emergent literacy behaviors help children to successfully tackle the demands of beginning reading when they enter school. Now, relationship between listening comprehension and reading comprehension. As column 5, where child compared listening comprehension and reading comprehension, she based her observation on the longitudinal research made by Stitch and his associates in 1947 on the relationship between reading and listening for grade 1 to college and adult level. Stith conclude that the relationship between auding, when we say auding, we are talking about listening comprehension, and reading grows as grade level increase up to 4th grade and remains fairly constant thereafter. The review also showed that up to grade 4, listening comprehension is more efficient than reading comprehension. From grade 5 to 7 or 8, listening is still ahead, but it begins to lay off and reading becomes equal to listening. During high school years, reading and listening are mostly equal. It is only at the college and adult levels that reading moves ahead of listening efficiently. Steph conclude that the relationship between auditing and the review also showed that up to grade 4, listening comprehension is more efficient than reading comprehension. From grade 5 to 7 or 8, listening is still ahead, but it begins to lay off and reading becomes equal to listening. So during high school years, reading and listening are mostly equal. Now, let us come to implications. There are many implications for reading instruction that we can draw based on the developmental view of reading. Implication for research and theory building can also be made. Implications for reading instruction. The developmental view suggests a major challenge of reading instruction to make sure that we choose teaching objectives that corresponds to the child's pattern of reading growth. The level of our instruction cannot be too far below or too far above the stage of reading development as reached. Here are some implications worth considering. First, children who enter first grade or stage 1 or transfer stage should have more specific and systematic instruction in decoding, since relationship between sounds and letters are usually not discovered by the learner himself. Number 2, there is a need to take a closer look at how the transition from stage 1 to stage 3 is done. Number 3, what should be the focus of instruction in the middle grades? When the emphasis is on the reading to acquire new knowledge, should the emphasis be on the literature content? Or should the emphasis be on exercises designed to teach various reading comprehension skills? In the more advanced stage, we should emphasize method that teach text structure and their use in understanding expository materials as well as more complex narrative materials. Now, for learning to read in a second language. In a bilingual situation where most Filipino children find themselves, a relevant question to ask is the beginner's knowledge of oral language? When we say the beginner knowledge of oral language, we are talking about sound, grammar, meanings, enough for the transfer to take place. Therefore, oral language develop is an integral part of beginning reading instruction. This includes both development of vocabulary and mastery of basic language structures. So I have here a diagram showing how learners acquire a second language. As you can see, it starts with experience from oral language to printed materials, and from experience, it's down to printed symbols and another printed symbols. The model above implies that in learning to read in second language, the child makes use of same experiences. So as you can see, both in oral language and printed symbols, they use their experiences in how acquiring the language. But in order to transfer to the patterns of graphic shapes in the second language, he must first of all learn the linguistic equivalent of what he already knows in his native language. Now, let us come to the evaluation. The developmental model gives us a framework for construction meaningful tests and assessment materials. If we understand what distinguishes reading at the various stages of development, we can select and construct the crucial subtests and items. Now let us come to implications for research. For studying literate environment, first, developmental model makes us take a closer look at environment that foster reading development. What makes for a rich print environment, both home and in school? Are books more essential? Are some is essential than the others? In an effort to raise phonemic awareness, teachers are presented with the challenge of providing their students with a print-rich environment that will provide their student with a variety of opportunities to see, read, and most importantly, to interact with the written words. A print-rich environment provides students with exemplar examples of text that is meaningful, used in real life, and applicable throughout the day. This can be achieved through the use of an interactive word wall, by labeling the classroom furniture and with the use of manipulatives. Through this exposure, your students will begin to see what printed text carries meaning, which will be then instilled and decide to learn to read, write, and speak through those words independently. So, reading researchers agree on the importance of, first, providing regular time to read to children, involving them often in language and reading related activities, and allowing them time to read on their own pleasure. So the researchers uh, they agreed that it is important that the learners they must be involved, especially in activities like reading or activities wherein they will be able to develop their language. Another, providing classroom activities that allow children to use reading and writing for functional and real purpose. So it's important as teacher to make sure that these learners they have these activities that they can, especially activities that will focus on reading and writing. For those who have difficulty with reading, the developmental model help us understand reading and other educational problem of those who experience persistent difficulties. This will enable us to devise instructional plans such as children according to their individual performance pattern and stage of development. So with the use of this model, we'll be able to use different instructional materials wherein we can use this in developing the learners, especially in reading. For example, we can give poor readers the chance to work independently of the rest of the class, to practice skills and strategies, and to have experiences related to language and reading that sustain motivation. So if you have these poor readers, you can use different activities wherein they are intended only for the poor readers and then another activities for the fast readers. For theory building, it is not uncommon for reading investigators to disagree over the meaning of reading, which is concerned with different stage of its development. A stage theory, such as proposed by Chal, should help to clarify what is or not being studied or discussed. The reading stages may also help to provide a framework for analyzing, synthesizing various models of reading. Some theorists tend to view reading mainly as top-down or bottom-top. According to Charles' proposed model, A style of processing tends to vary according to the reader's stage of development. Now, let us come to summary. To sum it all, every child can learn to read with meaning within the first few months of schooling. If we give space to children's own knowledge and experiences in the class while teaching them how to read, then they will learn to read as easily as they learn to speak at home. When children join school, they already knew the meaning of several words. Children recognize things in their practical context and know the syntax of their mother tongue or how our home language very well. This foundation becomes available to school ready-made in every child. All we need is rigorous effort and freedom from the grip of letter sound approach to be able to think from a fresh perspective. Helping our children choose book at the perfect level to challenge but not frustrate them is one of the keys to fostering a love of reading. Understanding the five stages of reading development and how to determine to selecting books that entertain and delight them as they read. Before I end my report, let me let me leave you a quotation from Mimfax. Reading aloud and talking about what we're reading sharpens children's brains. It helps develop their ability to concentrate at length, to solve problems logically, and to express themselves more easily and clearly. That ends my report. Thank you.